Jared here from the 25th century. Please excuse in the podcast that follows all of the background noise from the various animals living in my tube. You'll hear birds, dogs, all kinds of things that I usually don't allow onto the show, but in this case, it was unavoidable. Thanks for your patience. Enjoy the show.
Bounty hunters. We don't need that scum.
I'll take on any job for the right price.
You are free to use any methods necessary, but I want them alive. No disintegrations.
As you wish.
Captain Password.
He's all yours, bounty hunter.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Welcome in to the Carbonite Chronicles, presented by the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. This show is dedicated to reviewing and discussing the Disney Plus award-winning show, The Mandalorian. My name's Matt.
I'm Jared.
I'm Mike.
Hello?
I feel like something's missing. Is it
Wait, hey, hang on. I just got a text
from
Matt.
Why is he texting and not talking?
Matt? Interesting. Okay, got some bad dewback ribs at the Tashi Station Bar and Grill, running to the bathroom. Okay.
Yikes.
Oh, wait, hang on. Start the show without me. Okay.
Well,
all
he's
right.
Gonna need a new pair of pants.
Man, that dewback rib poisoning is nothing to play with, which he is finding out right now. Okay, so I guess it's going to be me and Mike talking about Chapter 12,
We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite Mandalorian.
The Duchess Satine?
Yes, she was my favorite.
Okay.
Fortunately, it seems like Spoiler Monkey is sleeping, so I'll go ahead and hit that spoiler alert right now. We're going to be spoiling it, so get ready.
All right, so Chapter 12 begins with this kind of this cute little scene with Baby Yoda stuck back in a Jeffries tube, for lack of a better term. It did make me think of Star Trek with him in this, where Scotty would always climb up in the ship in these tubes.
Yes.
And the Mandalorian is trying to explain to Baby Yoda how he needs something fixed. And the Baby Yoda ends up electrocuting himself.
I have to say the total act of desperation to put that baby.
Yes.
Here's an idea I have. I'll put the baby.
Okay. Can you imagine
in the
ship, taking one of your sons when they were like 2 and saying, "Hey, I need you to go in there and fix that fuse box." Do you think you could do that? And they'd be like, "Ah, cuckoo, cuckoo." Okay,
right, let's
good
do
work,
this.
son. Yeah. So
what he doesn't know is it's going to turn out that species is colorblind.
Yeah. So Baby Yoda was sitting there just like
the gray one or the gray one.
Yeah. So he realizes pretty quickly that's a bad idea, and maybe he should just take it to be repaired somewhere, which is probably what he should have done in the first place.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I like about the Mandalorian.
What's
that? His patience level.
Yes.
He has the patience of Job. Like, he has this puff of smoke come and hit him in the face. And he's like, okay, well, let's try something else.
Yes, absolutely. So he decides he's going to go to Navarro and see some old friends and get his ship fixed. He lands on Navarro, and he's meted and greeted by Apollo Grief and Cara Dune. The ramp on his ship does not go all the way down. But hey, before we leave the ship, let's talk about a meal that Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian share together. Now, tell me what you think about this scene where they're drinking their soup.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know there's been different theories volleyed about.
Yes.
I think it was the intention of the scene was to show the impracticality of his life choice of not ever removing his helmet.
Yes.
Because I feel like even Baby Yoda was like, why are you doing that? Just take it off.
Yes. So the scene we're talking about is when Baby Yoda and Mando are sitting there in the hold of the ship drinking soup, and the Mandalorian is barely lifting up his helmet so he can sip soup from a cup. And it does demonstrate the impracticality of what he's doing. But I also think it demonstrates, I don't know if he's ever taken a meal in front of Baby Yoda before.
Well, I would say not. I mean, heck fire, if he has to lift his helmet up just a tiny bit to drink, I mean, there's no way he's like, all right, I'm going to eat now.
And Baby Yoda did look up at him with, like, what I perceived as great fascination when he was like, oh, wait, that's his chin. I see his chin.
Oh, that's true. Baby Yoda's never seen his face.
So I think this is a result of his encounter with Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians from last week. Like, he's like, wow, I was raised by religious zealots, and these people seemed okay, so maybe I can take my helmet off and enjoy a cup of soup. I don't know.
All I can say is those Mandalorians have to be some pasty-faced people.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, remember what Darth Vader looked like when he took his helmet off? It's like it was dipped in chalk dust. He had, total vitamin D deficiency. But anyway, so that was a neat little scene. And then
I think that further reinforces my theory that before the season's over, he'll be taking his helmet off freely.
I think you are absolutely 100% correct.
So what happens if they like trip and fall and their helmet falls off in front of everybody? Is there some sort of punishment for that?
Well, it would be like the Shockmaster.
That's exactly. You hear Sid Vicious in the background going, "Oh my god!"
And Ric Flair back there screaming. Yeah. That's just, when you said that, I immediately thought of the Shockmaster.
I can't believe I didn't think of it, but that's
because now here's a sidebar. Anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, YouTube Shockmaster. He is this wrestler who wore a stormtrooper helmet covered in glitter paint.
It was bedazzled. The whole thing was bedazzled.
And this guy looked like he was pushing about 400 pounds.
Well, if you're familiar with wrestling at all, it was Tugboat.
Okay, Tugboat is the guy. And they were supposed to do this big grand entrance where this dude, Shockmaster, was going to bust through the wall and make this grand entrance. And so when the Shockmaster came out, there was all this pyro that went off. And he busts through the wall, but trips. And his helmet goes flying off. And he like tries to hide his face and scrambles and puts his helmet back on real quick. And then this terrible ADR dialogue starts coming through. He sounds like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Exactly.
Like, you, Sid Vicious, I will kill you.
And they cut to the other wrestlers, and they're all trying to
not to laugh,
bust out laughing.
Anyway,
the character never recovered.
So we will call that, Mike, the Shockmaster clause in the Mandalorian creed. If you fall and your helmet falls off, I think you're given a pass. But after that, your career goes nowhere.
You're just relegated to like cleaning out the trash bins.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, so anyway, we digress. So Grief Karga says, "Hey, let's get your ship fixed up, and then we're gonna go talk some business." And one of the ship mechanics is obviously not on the level. This particular alien is called is from Mimbanese, I believe it's called. They appeared in the movie Solo, and they're from the planet Mimban, which...
So it's a man from Mimban.
Mimban, yep. Mimban, of course, Mike will know, was from Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and it was that muddy, swampy planet that Han Solo fought on at the beginning of Solo.
Wow.
So
that's a deep cut.
That's deep cut.
First Star Wars EU, I believe, right?
It was. Yeah, the first expanded universe novel, Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster.
Was written in case they didn't get to make a sequel.
Correct. And in the book, Luke tries to put the moves on Leia, which is totally weird. But anyway, so Grief Karga, Cara Dune, and the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda continue into the town square, and we see that the town has been significantly cleaned up since the events of Season 1. The Empire is out of there. Everybody is prospering. But we would be remiss if we don't go back and mention the kind of the pre-credit sequence of Cara Dune mopping up a den of thieves, of Aqualish thieves, who have taken up residence in the former foundry of the armorer. So it's obvious the armorer, she's packed up her mythosaur skull ornament and moved to some other place. But the covert is no longer on Navarro, the Mandalorian covert. They've taken over her former foundry and use it as a place for their nefarious dealings.
It's their hideout.
Yes.
It's not a very good hideout, though, because, she already knew where it was.
And she found it pretty quickly. We found out she is now the marshal of the town, and we go in there, and they all pull their guns, and she just... I'm pretty sure she kills everybody in there. And she saves a little lava ferret, for lack of a better term. The lava ferret.
A ferret.
A ferret. That is not a dog. That is a ferret. So she goes in there and she kills all the Aqualish guys, and she gathers up the money they've stolen. So, but I think that scene is set to show us that the covert is gone, the armorer is gone, and Cara Dune is now the marshal of the town. So, back to where we were, they go into the former cantina, which is now a school.
Dun, dun, dun.
Being taught by a protocol droid, which was cool to see. It's a protocol droid that looked just like C-3PO with different coloring. That droid sounded a lot like L3 from Solo. I thought it might have been the same woman voicing her, but it just sounded very similar. But I guess a lot of droid vocabulators are kind of standardized.
Yeah, they buy them, order them online when they need a replacement. I wonder if there's like different, like you can get like a cheaper knockoff voice.
You can order from like the cheap knockoff protocol droid voice.
Yeah, it's like
if you can't afford the Anthony Daniels, you go down to something else. But anyway, having the captions on in this scene was good because I got to. There's a lot of expanded universe deep cuts in what the droid is saying. They talk about the two hyperspace lanes, the Corellian Run and the Hydian Way, which are just deep cuts from the old expanded universe. We find out that the New Republic capital is now on Chandrilla, which is the planet Mon Mothma is from.
Well, that seems a little self-serving.
Well, it's kind of like when...
Well, what planet should we use?
Well, it's kind of like when, what's his name? President Johnson moved all the NASA to Houston because he's from Texas. Never mind that they already had infrastructure set up in Florida, and he's just like, no, let's do it in Texas. Okay, sure.
I never understood that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's because Lyndon Johnson was from Texas, and he wanted that business in Texas. So
wait a minute. Politicians putting their personal gain.
See, listen, on the Carbonite Chronicles, you learn all kinds of stuff.
That's weird. I don't believe it.
So anyway, Baby Yoda, this did strike me as a little odd. Grief Karga's like, hey, just leave him here in class, and we got to go talk business. And he's like, oh, well, okay.
Is that droid hiding like a 60 caliber weapon?
Yeah, look, the Mando and the child are still kind of wanted as far as I know. But
we'd be safe here with all these kids and this protocol droid. Totally safe.
Sure. But anyway, they set him down. It's really cute. And, of course, Baby Yoda is hungry and lacking any amphibian eggs to eat. He sees a kid eating these blue macaroon cookies.
And what Baby Yoda wants.
Oh, he'll get them. He sort of asks the kid. He sort of holds out his hand.
He's very sweet about it.
He's like, may I have one? And my wife was watching it. She's like, I would give him the whole box. Yes.
Well, doesn't that kid know you don't take something into class unless you brought enough?
Yeah, you have
for the
to
whole
share.
Class.
But this kid doesn't know. He's like,
that kid looked familiar to me. Did that kid look familiar to you?
I don't know. Maybe he's an kid actor I've seen somewhere.
It just seemed like someone I'd seen somewhere.
Well, he seemed like a butthole is what he seemed like. So he's like, no, you can't have this. So, of course, Baby Yoda's like, okay, champ. And he just uses the Force, but in a blink of an eye, he's eating his macaroons. And the kid's like, what? So
it's just like, hey, can I have some of those? No. Okay, I'll just take them.
Okay, I'll just use the Force, and then I'll choke you while I eat the macaroons.
Could you
Dude, it's not out of his character. He has tried to choke people before.
Have you noticed they're very sparing with him using the Force?
Yes, it's not something that happens every episode,
which I think is good. I like that.
No, of course. It's a crutch they could lean on easily, but they don't, so it's good. And so this is, for most of this season, and some of last season, I think the Mandalorian, and Mike, you'll know this because you're a kind of a gamer. You play games, video games. The Mandalorian is structured very much like a video game, where the Mandalorian goes somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's shot like a video game.
Well, it is. It doesn't. It doesn't look like a video game.
No. You know what I mean.
But the story is structured in a way where he has been presented with a lot of side quests. Yes, like where he's walking through the town and somebody says, "Hey, come over here." Hey. So this is another side quest for the Mandalorian where he's talking to Greef and Cara, and there is an Imperial base nearby, and they want to get rid of this Imperial base. So
understandably
Navarro,
so.
Yes, so Navarro can become a center of trade in the sector, and it's still, according to them, lightly manned and semi-active. The Mandalorian's like, well, okay, I guess I can help, and we meet up with Mithril, the blue man from the first episode, who's an amusing addition to the cast. Horatio Sands plays him.
He has his interesting biological reaction to seeing the Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian walks in and he sort of farts through his neck. It's like, I believe you said earlier, Mike, it was like a squid squirting ink. This gas expels through his neck in a very nervous fashion. And he says, I don't want to, still can't see out of my left eye because of the carbonite, which is a nice callback to the hibernation sickness that one gets when you're encased in carbonite.
Real quick, just to backtrack a little bit. You're talking about how this show's like a quest. Some people, I don't know how many, but I've seen like a comment or two, so I don't want to overblow that, but I'll just say I feel like we just need to understand that this is the format of the show.
Yeah.
But like people who are like, well, that's the show. I mean,
that's what he's doing. I mean,
that's how it's going to be. He's each episode is a quest to get him to the next quest.
However, the
till he gets to the end boss.
And I think the end boss is coming up, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the four of them, Mithril, Grief, Kara, and the Mando, hop in a speeder and head over to this base. And their plan is to overload the reactor and blow it up. So they get over there. And
I'm surprised that they didn't take it over and we'll turn it into like a nice museum or something like that, since they're repurposing stuff.
Yeah, I know. I guess maybe they just thought, well, it's easier just to blow this up.
I'm just joking.
Okay.
I didn't think they should really think that.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, there's a lot of technology there and everything. They might want to keep some of those floating Ripleys for whatever purposes they want. But anyway, we'll get there in a second. They come up to the base, and the controls to get in the elevator don't work. And so Mithril grabs his apparently a plumbing implement and starts trying to.
It's like a Leatherman.
Yeah, and he's like, I just use this for plumbing. And anyway, the Mandalorian's like, I got no time for this. He fires up his jetpack and zips.
I just want to say, I love anytime you see him fly. I think it just looks so cool. It's like the best jetpack stuff you've seen ever. It just looks cool. I don't know how to explain it.
It does. It looks awesome. And so he flies up to this this sort of like I don't know, like a landing pad, which is way, way above them. And next thing we hear is a stormtrooper screaming,
"It's raining stormtroopers!"
as he is tossed this stormtrooper off this landing pad, falling hundreds of feet to his death. And then he sends the elevator down.
I wonder what it would look like if you took the helmet off that dude. What condition his head would be in.
It would be like, I don't know, like a Raspberry Pi that had been, smashed.
That guy had a family.
But
he just callously threw him off the...
Well, they get to the top, and he's already dispatched a few other stormtroopers by the time the elevator reaches the top, because he's standing there amongst dead ones. And they're like, okay, well, let's go overload this reactor. So again, they, I love this place. I love the continuity of design between this and the original trilogy, because this place looks like exactly like you think an Imperial base would look. All the hallways and the windows.
Well, it has that that light pattern. The capsule pattern.
Yes. All like the Death Star.
Yeah.
Anyway, they make their way through the base to the control center, which is very reminiscent of the tractor beam control. And then one of my favorite moments in the episode, Mithril, that like for some reason Grief Karg is like, okay, you get out there and turn this off.
Every time you say Mithril, I think of the armor from Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I should say Mithril. I think it's actually pronounced Mithril. I'm saying Mithril because that's what's in my head from Lord of the Rings. So Grief Karg is like, hey, go out there and turn this off. And he's like, what? And he steps out and he goes, there's not even a guardrail on this thing, which is a great Star Wars joke, because there are never guardrails in Star Wars.
OSHA would have a field. Can you imagine an OSHA representative one day showed up the Death
Wait
Star.
a second.
And he's like, hey, there's no guardrails here. Hey, you guys got to do something without these
Yeah.
And that was the last we ever heard of OSHA.
Yes. So Mithral goes out to the tractor beam control looking thing, and he looks straight down, and he's standing over a pit of lava. There's lava a couple 100 feet below him, and he turns off
again with the lava.
Yeah. Well, what? So the lava is they're using the lava to power this place, and this reactor kind of controls the lava, but they essentially just turn it off, so the lava is no longer controlled and starts to slowly consume the base.
I love those square lighted buttons. That's another carryover from
Yes. And that's something that we had talked about before, that they haven't updated the technology in the Mandalorian to reflect like modern cinematic sensibilities. They stick with that 1970s aesthetic. Like, you could take a set piece from the Mandalorian and drop it into A New Hope, and it would fit seamlessly, and vice versa, because they haven't updated the look of anything just because it's 40 years later.
It's like the opposite of those Star Trek prequel show where they're supposed to like take place before the original series, and the technology is ridiculous.
Yes.
And they are literally using like number counters, like those rolling number counters.
Yes. On the Enterprise, they had like the old digital, like it looked like a clock your grandma had in her room, like on a clock radio. But yeah, when they've made the prequel shows, they've of course sort of just retroactively tried to fix everything by making it all modern. But they haven't done that here. I mean, they've kept it the way it looked in the 70s, and that's appropriate. But so they're on their way out, and then they stumble across this room, which, Mike, I think you called it like the Room of Ripley's. And we're talking, of course, about Alien 4, when they've tried to clone Ripley many times, and there are all these terrible iterations of her floating in a tank.
Yep.
And that's sort of what's going on here.
But they're a little more, a little less obvious with what you're looking at.
Yes, they are. And
in fact, I missed what you were about to bring up.
Yes. So doing some further research, this is not something I just picked up by watching the show, so I can't really claim credit. But when they start exploring the tanks, well, they go in there and they kill the 2 cloning technicians who are in there, and they start looking around, and they're all kind of horrified, and they're like, "What is this place?" And they look in a tank, and there is something floating in the tank that looks like Supreme Leader Snoke. He's got the split in his head. His body's all deformed. And Ludwig Göransson actually uses a variation of Snoke's music from The Force Awakens in this scene. I don't know if that's a misdirect, but it's certainly on purpose. And then we play if you can hear my dog, I apologize. That's Chewie, and he is a giant pain in the ass. Please ignore him.
There's some Cthulhu witnesses going door to door outside in the hallway.
There probably is, yes. So they play a hologram of Dr. Pershing, and Pershing says...
Real quick, let's pause on that.
Sure.
So, first of all, kudos to the people who study these things frame by frame. You have an amazing level of patience I could never exhibit. In fact, I think I've shown my impatience just today, in fact. But now, if that is indeed Snoke, this could be interesting, because I think when we talk about the sequel trilogy, I think we've all found a place for them in our hearts with, like, you know, we take the good, the bad, but we also know there's problems, especially when you get to the third movie. There's some serious, like, gaps that they just did not have time to fill. So this might be an opportunity for them to use the Mandalorian to fill those gaps. And it could make an overall more enjoyable viewing experience on a rewatch. It's like when you watch the Clone Wars,
you nailed it
with the prequels. Like the prequels by themselves, especially, you know, between 2 and 3, you just feel that gap.
Yes.
You know, Obi-Wan and Anakin are at each other's throats, and then they're best buds. Well, when you watch Clone Wars, it's seamless.
The Clone Wars makes the prequels better.
Definitely. No doubt.
So you're suggesting the Mandalorian could do the same for the sequels, and I agree with you 100%. I actually think there's a lot of interesting things that could happen here. Of course, I really love the Mandalorian, and I don't want its focus to be purely fixing the sequel trilogy, but if they can do things like this, start making these moves where they start to establish like the First Order, or you see the beginnings of the First Order. There is a line at the end of this where the young female Imperial officer says to the Mimban creature,
"What do you have for me?"
"The device has been planted as you requested."
Good. You will be well rewarded in the new era.
But that gives the impression that
there's something in the works.
They're working on something. And we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you know, and I think also, you know, I think at episode 9, I think bringing Palpatine back was the right call. I mean, I like it. It you know, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to make it work, but I think having him there at the end makes it work. You know, what if they brought back Ian McDiarmid for the Mandalorian? Because he's not dead.
No, he's not.
But anyway, we're prognosticating and getting ahead of ourselves here. Anyway, so Pershing says that the experiment failed. The host did not have, we will have problems finding another host with a high enough M count, which obviously refers to midichlorian count, which is the first time that has been referenced in this show. Or it's the first time it's been referenced since really episode 3, probably.
Yeah, and I think
unless I'm missing something from the Clone Wars.
I think I know people were upset about midichlorians, but I think they misunderstood what the midichlorians were. Like, they don't give the Jedi their powers; they just give the Jedi the ability
to use them.
It just gives them a higher susceptibility to the Force.
Correct.
And I don't think that really damaged anything. I mean, was it necessary? No, but I don't think it really hurt anything.
Well, you know, it sort of makes sense if you would assume the offspring of Anakin Skywalker are going to be strong in the Force. I mean, because they were.
Yeah.
And before I knew what midichlorians were back in the original trilogy, I just assumed Luke and then Leia had the Force because their father did.
Yeah.
And that's passed on genetically, and the midichlorians are just a genetic representation of that. It's a measurable thing.
It's like when people say the Ewoks defeat the Empire. If you watch Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks most definitely did not defeat the Empire.
No,
they got their butts handed to them.
But they had they strategically took down a couple of walkers that allowed.
It was a distraction. That's all they were, was a distraction.
And that's how these things get generalized as the years go on. You know, midichlorians are just these weird bacteria that have the Force, and that's all that is. And Ewoks are super teddy bears. But, anyway. Again, we're getting off topic. So, the Mandalorian watches this Pershing hologram and gets very distressed because he finds out that it was sent to Moff Gideon 3 days ago.
Dun.
And they thought Moff Gideon was dead.
Dun.
So he's like, okay, I got to get the kid. We got to get out of here.
I think that's one of the times you see the Mandalorian go into full-blown panic.
Yes.
He's like, blah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes, hey, guys. And they even say, yeah, you got to go.
Yeah. So he gets out of there. Mithral, Grief, and Kara, they commandeer a troop transport, which results in a really awesome chase scene through the lava flats. Some of the best speeder bike action since Return of the Jedi, easily.
I just want to say the speeder bikes have always been my favorite Star Wars vehicle. Like, that scene in Return of the Jedi still... I mean, I wanted a speeder bike so bad. I used to imagine, like, my school bus that I rode going to school, and I would, like, pass it by on my speeder bike. And everyone would be looking out the window and see me.
Man, Mike's got
past.
A speeder bike.
Well, then you probably enjoyed this scene then, because it's pretty awesome. And I've always wondered what would happen if a speeder bike all of a sudden like dropped off a cliff. And now I saw this episode, and we see that a couple of speeder biker scouts kind of misjudged what would happen, and they crashed into a rock. And
they didn't make it.
No, they didn't. But a few of them did, and we got a really great chase scene out of this. Again, looked amazing, looked like something straight out of a movie, and we got Grief Karga taking the guns on this troop transport and making quick work of these speeder bikes. Then the TIE fighters come after them, and apparently TIE pilots are about as good as shots as stormtroopers, because they have targeting computers that tell them, okay, you've got this thing in your sights, just shoot, and they still miss. But, at this point, 40-something years in, if you can't accept that stormtroopers can't hit anything, then I don't know what to tell you.
I will say that during this part of the show, because the Mandalorian had exited for the time being, and they seem like really focused on these characters, I really thought there was a chance that they might not make it.
Yeah. Oh, but then the Razor Crest.
Dun, dun, dun. Newly fixed,
as Mike said, in record time.
100%.
The Razor Crest falls out of the clouds, and there's a really cool little dogfight sequence that happens. The day is saved. Baby Yoda vomits. We see this. He's pretending he's on a roller coaster.
This pureed macaroon comes out of his...
Yes. We've now seen Baby Yoda
also
vomit.
Notice how the Baby Yoda was like, he looked like he was enjoying the whole
yeah, he had his arms up like he was on a roller coaster. He was screaming, and I thought it was amusing, the Mandalorian, and any parent can relate to this, turning around while driving and wiping the vomit from the kid's face, which everyone who's had a kid has done this before. Like, oh, crap, what is this? And you just sort of wipe it off with a rag.
You're like looking for anything.
Yes, like napkins on the floor.
A jacket that's got left in the back seat.
Yeah. So he doesn't even stop to say goodbye. He's just like, I got to go. I got to get out of here. And he's out. We do have to talk about a conversation that happens at the end with the New Republic police officer, Carson Teva. He is also known as Asian Porkins.
Is that guy from been something else? God, I swear he looks...
He's in a TV show right now. I
like his character. There's something...
He seems...
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. But he seems like a good guy, and he wants to help.
But he's good at his job. He's very... Yeah. I like he doesn't try to, like, when he's talking to Cara Dune.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, listen, you got the skills. We need the help.
Yes. But Kara and Grief Karga, they're not really interested in helping out the New Republic.
And I will say this is the first episode that I realized that was a rebel symbol tattooed on her cheek.
On her cheek? Yeah. Well, so he asked Grief Karga, hey, what do you know about this Imperial base exploding? And Grief's like, I don't know. It's whatever. And so, okay, well, that's fine. And then he goes out and talks to Kara.
Well, it seems like they're still looking for the Razor Crest. Were they?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They were there. I mean, you see their X-Wings are parked, and he was just asking him about, what do you know about this Imperial base exploding? Because obviously, Carson and Commander Wolf, they're obviously looking, we find out from previous episodes, for Imperial holdouts. So, but he does have an interesting conversation with Cara Dune.
You did a hell of a job cleaning up the system. According to records, you're quite a soldier. We could really use you.
I'm not a joiner, Blue.
There's something going on out here. They don't believe it on the core worlds, but it's true. These aren't isolated incidents. They need to be stopped before it's too late. But we can't do it without local support.
He's not specific about it, but he's like, there's something going on out here, and we need your help to find out what's going on. Which could be another setup for, maybe you see the beginnings of the First Order. And then he gives her a, which I'm not sure what it is. It looks like some sort of badge with the New Republic logo on it.
She got an achievement.
Yes. And it does look like a medal you would have received in the X-Wing video game from many years ago. Something they would pin to your virtual chest. And I thought that's what it was, but I looked it up online and couldn't find it. But anyway, we leave it there, and he leaves that with her. Still not sure what it is, but finally, the final scene of the show, we find out some information. We go to Moff Gideon's cruiser, which again is a cruiser that appeared in the Clone Wars.
Also a very reminiscent shot
of New Hope. Yes, we see this giant cruiser shot from below. It's an Arquitens class light cruiser, and it did appear in the Clone Wars animated show.
It's got a pitchfork shape. Or like
yes, it's got like a giant mandible.
Piano tune.
Yeah, cut out in the front of it. But so an Imperial officer is talking to the Mimban mechanic and says, thank you for placing the tracer. So they are tracking now the Razor Crest. The officer goes to see Moff Gideon, who is standing in a room full of, what are they, Mike? Come on.
Well, to me, they look like dark troopers.
Dark troopers. And I think, based on some further research, you are absolutely correct.
Which is awesome, because Dark Forces was a great
Yes.
game.
And the Imperial technician who's in the room with Moff Gideon has a logo on his tunic. And this logo is straight from the Dark Forces video game. So, I don't think there's any question that they are standing amongst these Dark Trooper droids, and Moff Gideon has a plan to use these droids. And
these guys are bad hombres.
Yes. Yeah, Dark Troopers are no joke, as we found out in the mid-90s through hours of playing them.
If you haven't played the Dark Forces games, guys, listen to me. They're great. You can play them on Steam. Steam is the only place you can get the second one, Jedi Knight. They're just really, really, really great, fun games.
Absolutely. And I've spent hours, and I believe there's four games?
Yeah, they do like kind of like the same thing with Rambo, how they do the Rambo movies. The first one's Dark Forces. The second one's Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, and then the next one is Jedi Knight 3.
Yeah, it's like Jedi Academy, right?
The fourth one is Jedi Academy.
Well, what's Jedi Outcast? The third one? Because Jedi Outcast is one of them.
Oh, maybe that is the third one. I apologize.
That's
yeah,
all right.
You're right. Jedi Outcast. Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't played those, definitely seek them out. And you may recognize or feel very familiar places in this episode, like the Imperial base, seem like, to me and Mike, like they've stepped right out of these video games from the mid to late 90s. And then we kind of, the episode ends. And I think at this time, we should say that all of the footage from the previously released trailers, we've seen all of it now in episodes. So whatever's coming next, we have no idea about. And I like it that way. Because I think what's coming next is going to be really surprising and crazy. Because there's a tracker on the Razor Crest now, and we know the Razor Crest is going to find Ahsoka. So what is going to happen? We will see.
We're halfway through.
It's halfway over, guys, and I just got another text from Matt. Oh yeah, okay. He said he can be back in 5 minutes, but I think that ship has sailed. Sorry, man. Oh, and he just asked me if I had any extra toilet paper. Nope, not right now. So, anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Will we get Ahsoka? Maybe.
I hope if we get her, we don't get her like in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I hope they don't pull a Lost on us.
Well,
like it opens up and it's a flashback episode, and then
oh yeah, and you're like, what? Well, with Dave Filoni writing and directing, I think we're gonna have some big Ahsoka action. So we'll see.
Real quick, we got to point out that Apollo Creed himself directed this last
Carl Weathers, and he did a bang-up job. I mean, I'm not familiar with his other directing credits, but good on him. Let me just take a moment. I love that Carl Weathers is in Star Wars now.
Yeah, I do too.
He's
such a great character and
perfectly.
Rocky.
Yeah, and he fits
great in Predator. He belongs there.
He does. And welcome, Carl. And we hope
welcome to the family.
We hope you see you many more times in the future, because you know, if there's no war to fight, Stallion, the warrior might as well be dead. All right, Grief Karga. All right, that's it for the Carbonite Chronicles this week. We will see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Mando channel.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.